Occupy LA has for you in the state of California gotten the House to pass the Homeowners Bill of Rights, which means the other 50 states are soon to pay attention. And I'm sure we'll all be in contempt of something for that, because we certainly have contempt for the banks, and it's now been proved. So congratulations on all of you who have worked hard for that. Let me not pause for even another second and introduce a man who you know his pulchritudinous visage. When you turn on the TV and watch TNT, you see a semi-naked Kira Sedgwick, and then you see a hot guy standing there, and he's blushing and squirming hideously. I'm talking about the 5-time SAG-nominated and Prism Award-winning actor Tony Denison, the star of the #1 drama on TNT, The Closer, as Detective Andy Flynn, along with Kira Sedgwick, whom I mentioned, soon to be starring in a new spin-off series called Major Crimes. So TNT is going to be running the end of the Closer series just in the next couple of weeks. And then August the 13th, Tony, you leap in front of the camera, reprising or reprising, depending which side of
the Mississippi.
The Mississippi, or I don't know,
taking a guess.
Or affected dialect you come from, but you'll be doing that role once again and solving the most hideous crimes Earth has ever known. Welcome.
Welcome. To be here. You know, on that excuse me, that August 13th start date, I'd like to note that I think this is the first time this has happened. Immediately following the last episode of The Closer. So it'll be, you know, the end, station break, and then boom, when the lights come back up again, it'll be the first episode of Major Crimes. And then the following week, Major Crimes will take over the Closer time slot.
You're leading into yourself.
Yes, we're leading. Actually, that's true.
That's
we're
clever.
leading into ourselves.
That's great.
That's clever.
But it's not. It's a spin-off, for lack of a better definition, but it's really not a spin-off per se, because the song remains the same. It's just a different name.
It's a continuation.
It's a continuation. Yes,
Right.
it's a. What were they? Continuation off or continuation on?
Or something like that.
A spinning on.
A spinning on. It's a spinning on. Thank you. That's very good. It's a spinning
And
on.
let's examine for a second here, as an actor, Tony Denison, and we'll open up the phones in a minute and let people say hi to you. As an actor, you really do have to understand how these crimes work and what the criminal mind does, because it's not like I can just, here, act it out. And like Billy Shakespeare, you had to actually do poetry to write Shakespeare. So I think you actually also have to really understand this to pull it off and make us believe it.
So are you trying to ask me a question that whether or not I had a life of crime before I
Actually, I hadn't thought of that, but but as an actor, I mean, you actually have to understand crime, I would think, right? Isn't that part of the discipline?
Well, I think, you know, ultimately, you know, all drama is this, you know, conflict between good and evil. And, you know, I'm sure the early Greek plays and, you know, all we are is basically a continuation of all of those.
I'm starting to laugh now because you thought I was going to ask you if you'd had a life of crime. And I actually like that question.
Yes. Well, well, as we go on, I'll talk to you a little bit about my shady past.
You can answer in the hypothetical, too.
Okay. But
for mercy's sake, because her boyfriend is over there, very protective. See, he's been to the gym, you can tell.
Never.
But I forgot what I was saying anyway.
The Greeks.
Oh, yeah. And Shakespeare, you mentioned Billy Shakespeare, one of my favorites.
Dead, you know.
Yes, I heard.
See what happens?
I know. I set shivers for him the other day. I just found out. No, but all of our play, everything that we do, it's just a continuation, you know, good versus evil, boy meets girl, and it's just all the different slants and variations based on, and you know, it's like music. It's like, you know, this limited number of notes and how you put them together. And you know, sometimes you're blessed as an actor. Yeah. You know, you get the opportunity to work with a writer, you know, producer, who is able to make, you know, put these notes together, so to speak, and come up with something fresh and different on the same old themes. Yeah. And James Duff, who is the executive producer of The Closer and now Major Crimes, who also happens to be a really close friend, he's done it again with Major Crimes. This really unique storytelling. You know, you start with a really good script, and then you put together your baseball team, so to speak. I mean, I once heard it said that if you took Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, put all of them on a field somewhere,
you'd be rich.
Didn't and didn't teach them the rules of the game,
Yeah.
chaos would ensue as they were trying to do whatever it is. As soon as you give them the guidelines,
Yeah.
the foul lines and the point of the game, suddenly they play brilliantly. So I'd like to think, not that I play my character brilliantly, but I'd like to think if I get a really good stadium to play in, I have an opportunity to hit the ball. I don't know if it's going to make it over the fence every time, but I'll swing mightily at it.
Well, I think you do play that character brilliantly, and I'm really fascinated, especially with the way that the character was introduced into the series as kind of an antagonist, and then you develop into one of the prime supporting characters.
Well, that's due in part to the fans. Apparently, they liked me a lot. But they didn't.
Apparently, it's the #1 show.
Well, I
and
mean,
him specifically.
They said, "Why do you have to constantly be at her,
at her throat,
a thorn, at her throat, a thorn in her side?" And so they just kept saying, "We want to keep this character on, but we want him to be on her side." So they just sort of rehabilitated me a little bit, and next thing you know, based on the character truth, which was that Flynn is the kind of guy that he'll go back to back with someone if the person stands up for them. Right. And which she did in that one episode, and then from that point on, he realized, no, my allegiance is with you, not with Commander Taylor.
The through line to your character being loyalty, I think, which made the transition so graceful, personality-wise.
Right,
nice.
Thanks. Yeah,
nicely done.
That's what it was, loyalty.
It is 12 minutes past the hour. Harrison with you. You are listening to Go Harrison. We're talking to Tony Denison, actor known from The Closer, the #1 show on TNT. Has a new show coming out called Major Crimes, where he plays the same role. He's prequeling or post-quelling. In other words, he's
spinning
on, as it were, taking full advantage of having created an extraordinary character who is frictive, to say the least. You were named by Time Magazine as villain of the year
of the '80s.
Of the '80s. Now, that I would say, that's a hell of a mantle to wear.
Yeah,
there's a lot of real mafiosos that don't get that.
I know some real mafiosos who used to watch me on Friday night when the show was on, Crime Story, and they would watch it and they would say, "How come we don't act like that guy?" Or dress like that guy, and so it's sort of a dubious, recognition, but nevertheless, it was. But I mean, Time Magazine doing that happened, completely unsolicited. It just, one day somebody called me and said, "Oh, did you see Time Magazine?" I said, "No." They said, "You ought to pick it up and look at the best shows of the decade." And then there it was. I mean, considering the show only ran 2 years, if we had an opportunity to go a third year, we would have run 10 years at least. It was a brilliant show. I mean, I think Michael Mann is without peer when it comes to creating a stylized look. And he had the opportunity with David Burke as one of the writers, producers. David and Michael put together this, it's just, brilliant show. I mean, people today, when they watch the show, it's been off the air for 25 years.
Yeah.
And sometimes somebody will come by the house and I'll put it on and they'll watch it and they'll say, no, I thought you said this was a television show. And I said, yeah, it was. They said, it looks like a movie.
Yeah.
And I said, this was on the air in '86 and '80. I said, yeah. I said, no wonder it didn't make it. They said, because it was just so
ahead of its time.
So ahead of its time. But Brandon Tartikoff, God rest his soul, he became a close friend. He said to me one day, he goes, "You know what?" He goes, "I hate to admit regrets and mistakes." He goes, "But I think I might have pulled the trigger on that too soon."
Harrison with you. We are talking to Tony Denison, actor, 5-time SAG-nominated, Prism Award-winning actor in 2011, star of the #1 drama on TNT, The Closer, Detective Andy Flynn, along with Kira Sedgwick. He's soon going to be starring in a new spin-off series called Major Crimes, which is going to be premiering August 13th on TNT. And in a few minutes, we're going to talk about something else he's doing, a new role called The Obama Effect. The Obama Effect. We're going to talk about what that means. Plus another role where he plays a chef and has self-awareness to bring in the relevancy of not only just being a keen actor, the villain of the year by Time Magazine, but also a guy who's actually paying attention to the world around him and why that's relevant and interesting to him. We're going to be doing traffic in just a few moments. Bottom of the hour, live news with Mercy Malik. We've got activism a go-go at about 40 till, and then sports with Garrett Ritt right after as we continue to talk to Tony Denison. Right now, it is 16 minutes past the hour, and we are live video streaming in HD at goharrison.com. You can watch on your smartphone, on your iPad.
Do I have to do the traffic too?
You get to do the traffic too.
That would be great.
You get to. In fact, you could do a special traffic at 40 minutes past the hour based on your intuition of having driven these friggin' freeways around.
Well, I
here.
figured the people who designed the highway system in this were driven around in limos. They never actually drove the cars themselves.
Well put.
And they were in the back of their limos, drinking champagne and snorting cocaine. I mean, they haven't got a clue. And they went back and said, "Okay, let's do the road this way." It's like, sounds great.
I mean,
pass the champagne.
Turn left here.
Think about it. Who comes up with an 8-lane freeway with one exit on the other side? Like, how are you supposed to do that?
How about when you get onto the 110 north of the 101? I mean, it's like a mechanical bullfight. I mean, it's just like, whoa,
Yes.
my God, it's just crazy.
How about getting on the 134 from L.A.?
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Quick,
Well,
go down
Get
Forest
off,
Lawn with
get
no
off.
street lamps.
Yeah, I mean, totally, these people were whacked when they put this together. They were high. They had to have been high.
You know what's
So
interesting?
since cocaine wasn't really in vogue then, I'm blaming it on booze.
If we're lucky, it was only that. In the 1920s, L.A. had the best public transportation in the world. Europeans were coming here going,
with
wow, electric...
with the green cars,
yeah,
right? Oh, the
incredible.
red cars. They were called red cars at that
Yeah.
time.
And you had this massive grid, this basin that we live in, and you could go from downtown L.A. to the beach, to the ocean, like 12 minutes for a nickel.
For a nickel, yeah.
Yeah, right? And you could get everywhere in L.A., and then, thank you, Jesus, in the 1950s and early 60s, Firestone got together with General Motors and realized they could buy up the area there and put these smelly diesel buses on that nobody wanted to ride with no air conditioning. Meanwhile, putting in Popular Science these cars with wings that looked like airplanes. And then they built the first suburb out in Studio City where you could have a carport. And eased us away from the icky notion of a nickel's worth of travel,
Right.
Conveniently and safely into an 8-lane highway with a single exit. And I tell you, my life has vastly improved.
Right. Mine too. I mean, I'm from New York, and and I came out here, and I was just so anxious to drive around in my car.
Good thing.
And but it's interesting. Like as much as possible, stay off the freeways, except during off-peak hours, obviously, because I don't understand. I mean, you sit, you're on a road that has no traffic lights, and you're stalled.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, okay, is there an accident?
Why
No.
doesn't everyone just go?
You would say,
Just go.
not that I want there to be an accident, but there has to be an accident. There's no logical reason for a highway with no traffic lights, not even like stop signs or yield signs, nothing. And you're standing there, you're just sitting there in your car going, what, why?
I like the notion of it's like a racetrack. You're on the entrance ramp, and you get a red light.
Right.
And then it's green for, how long is a car? 10 feet?
Yes.
You can go 10 feet. Green, go 10 feet. Stop.
Right. It's like, but when you get onto it's like you leave from that traffic light as like as the hare, and then once you get on the road, you're the tortoise. And then the idea is that, like, hopefully, you get to your space without losing your mind.
Well, as a smart homage to traffic, let's go to Jeff Thomas in about 30 seconds with live and local traffic. Right now, you are listening to Go Harrison, watching Go Harrison, live stream at goharrison.com, plus multiple FM affiliates. We're really glad you're here. We're talking to Tony Denison, star of the #1 detective drama on TNT. The Closer has run for many, many years, is now spinning off into a brand new show called Major Crimes, premiering August 13th. As we continue after traffic, we're going to ask him about some other projects called The Obama Effect, which is directed by Charles S. Dutton, who's been around also for many, many years, and self-awareness as an actor, and what is one's role also as an artist to be of service to the other residents of Earth, especially when you're Time Magazine's Villain of the Year. But I think that gives you extra kind of positive power. So we're going to look into that as well. Hang on, you are listening to Go Harrison. Traffic in about 20 seconds.
Lock in.
Traffic actually
Coming up,
is
more
busy.
Harrison
It really is.
on the Smart Show.
It's the people who.
Go!
Go Harrison. Unsponsored Common Sense Commuter Traffic.
Broadcasting live from the back of a limousine here on KPFK. It's 20 minutes past
You
the hour.
limousine liberal!
Your live and local traffic report. I'm stuck currently in Royal Heights on the 5 South. It's slow from the 10 freeway all the way to Lakewood Boulevard. Northbound lanes are also stop and go from the 91 to Pioneer because of an earlier crash. It doesn't get much better. Further north, in Los Feliz on the 5 North before the 134, there's a crash that's involving a big rig, and it still is blocking the right 2-lane. Traffic is backed up all the way to the 110 freeway. In Downey on the 5 North at the 605, another crash has been cleared to the right. Traffic is still stop and go from the 91. Southbound lanes are also stop and go from the 60 to Florence. And finally, the 91 West is going to be slow from the 5 to the 605. For Harrison, I'm Jeffrey Thomas on KPFK 90.7 FM here in Los Angeles, 98.7 FM, Santa Barbara.
Commuter traffic.
Why don't you look me up?
GoHarrison.com. You own the phone lines with Harrison. Call now. 310-737-TALK.
When I heard your show, I actually peed my pants laughing on the 405.
Cab drivers had it on, and they were big fans of yours. So just to let you know, the yellow taxi population.
Hey, Harrison, I was listening to your show last week on Saturday, and so I missed like the first 15 minutes of the movie. I'm out like $12, so I was wondering if, maybe you just mail me the check.
You're the most despised on my list. And believe me when I tell you I'm making a list.
Message marked urgent. Urgent. Hello, Harrison. I just want to let you know you're absolutely the best thing I've heard on radio or TV in my life. Wonderful. Keep up the good work.
I'm a 50-year-old black male, closeted bisexual, cross-country truck driver who is an extraterrestrial in a human body. I have made the dedication to be true to myself.
Occupy this. 310-737-TALK. Harrison on the edge.
Tired of using your crappy old bread maker?
Yeah, the bread comes out all square and it takes too long.
Then you need the Loaf Pincher. It's the all-new bread machine that pinches a loaf in seconds. Take a look.
Wow, a steaming hot loaf of brown bread, and the aroma fills the whole room.
Plus, the Loaf Pincher is easy to use. Just listen to what these satisfied customers are saying about the Loaf Pincher.
I pinch a loaf twice a day.
I love to pinch a loaf after my morning coffee.
Look, Mom, I pitched the loaf all by myself.
Best of all, the Loaf Pincher is totally portable. Take one indoors, outdoors, in your boat or RV. You can even pinch a loaf at the office.
Wow. Woof. Okay, people. I wouldn't go in there if I were you. Unless you want a loaf of pumpernickel.
So if you're backed up on your bread making, relief is on the way with the Loaf Pincher.
From the makers of the Cheese Squeezer. Harrison on the edge.
Hey guys, looking to get those six-pack abs?
Sure would.
Well, now you can do even better than that.
How?
With workout expert Jim Jablonski's new workout video, 12-pack abs. 12-pack abs. This revolutionary new workout program was developed by workout expert and bowling Hall of Famer Jim Jablonski. By following Jim's techniques, he'll show you how to start guzzling your way to a better gut. You don't have to spend hours every day in the gym. With Jim's 1-hour video, you can stay at home guzzling beer and watch football, hockey, basketball, the man show, and that other sport they call baseball, all while getting a great workout, as long as you have picture-in-picture. So if you don't like faggy aerobic workout programs, then order Jim Jablonski's 12-pack abs. 12-pack abs. And start getting ripped tonight.
Harrison on the edge. Like NPR on acid.
And it is 25 minutes past the hour. Harrison with you, your new best friend. Welcome. Happy Monday. Don't forget we are streaming live video right now at GoHarrison.com. GoHarrison.com. where we are featuring our new favorite guest, Tony Denison, who is listed as Time Magazine's Villain of the Year. A very smart guy, and a layabout doesn't get that kind of moniker. You actually have to kick some serious acting ass to be acknowledged that way. And Tony, we were talking a little bit about sort of an actor's responsibility of paying attention to what's going on around him. You have a new project coming out called The Obama Effect. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there's not much I can tell because I don't know when it's coming out. It was a wonderful experience working with Charles Dutton. He directed it, and I starred in it. And it's an interesting premise about a guy who, black man, obviously, who gives up everything to work, his local city's Obama campaign.
Sure.
And everybody thinks he's crazy that he goes and he does this.
Well, the Republicans certainly think he's crazy today.
Yes, exactly. And because the character was working at the Republican headquarters at the time. No, I'm only kidding.
There may be some truth to that.
I should say the Heritage Foundation. No. But I don't know when it's coming out.
Yeah.
But the other movie, Trattoria or Trattoria, depending on what part of Italy you come from, that I did about a year ago, and it's doing the festival route.
Yeah.
And Jason Wallace directed it, and he was first time directing a movie. I mean, I know he's directed some commercials and stuff before, and it was wonderful. Lisa Rotondi and John Patrick Amandori and Candace Cameron.
Candace Bergen.
Candace Erickson. She played. They were all. We had a wonderful time.
Yeah.
We're still friendly today.
So you've got a new project called Major Crimes coming out August the 13th, and it's a spin-off of your original The Closer, which you guys did long-term. And what have you learned about the criminal mind? Because you're living in it like 7 days a week, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's hard to say what you've learned about the criminal mind, except that, it takes all kinds of, bizarre people to, to spin this globe. But one thing I have learned is that for the cops themselves, the detectives and Indian uniforms, whoever show up at these crime scenes, some of them are so grisly that ultimately what they have to do is they have to find a way to release that, and sometimes they do it through humor, because otherwise, Mike Burcham, who's the executive producer on the show and also used to be the lead detective in the city of Los Angeles, said if you don't find a way to let it out through some sort of laughter, you'll go crazy. You go crazy.
Well, we have that issue in journalism, in my world, and in Mercy's world particularly, where it's that black humor that if you sit in decay, rot, destruction, deceit, thievery, dissembling, and if I could quadruply alliterate, I would, but I don't want to impress you that much. You have to find a way to rechannel that stuff, or it will eat you alive. And so you turn it into an outward joke. You look at the greatest comedians in the world, right? What do? But they parody the horrible stuff in life. Mm-hmm. Not the great stuff, the horrible stuff. Right. And that's how they, as human beings, rechannel it.
Makes it bearable.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this guy's passing you a note saying, Tony's boring? What?
No. He was saying, have him sign this as an autograph later.
I mean, it never ceases to amaze me because all of our stories are all based on they're all based on true stories that Mike Burcham has covered as a detective, and you look and you think, how crazy. I mean, I think any act of murder is an act of insanity. Yeah. I think for that moment in time, that person has gone completely, that's it. They've just lost touch with reality. And, and I'm sure there are people that are, that just somewhere along the line have developed their psychosis to the point where they're permanently crazy. And then there are people sometimes who just, like OJ, you just go completely bonkers, and you kill people, and sometimes, but then afterwards you say, no, I didn't do that, but they did. And some of those scenes, some of those particular moments of insanity, are the most gruesome.
We're going to continue talking to Tony Denison. Let's open up the phone lines for you. Your Harrison hotline's 310-737-TALK, 310-737-TALK or 310-737-8255 if 310-737-TALK sounds too difficult. And we're talking to Tony Denison. He's the actor, the 5-time SAG-nominated, Prism Award-winning actor, star of the #1 drama on TNT, The Closer, as well as the new star of Major Crimes, coming out in just about a month's time. And he's here live and in person here in Los Angeles. We are coming to you live from Marilyn Monroe's former apartment in West Hollywood, California. For those on the East Coast, it's swell. We have no humidity and no insects here. We're simply not zoned for it. And we seem to have plenty of electricity today. Thank you, Jesus. We'll see where that goes. But right now, a little live and local news with Mercy Malik.
Go Harrison. News update.
Go Harrison News Time is 31 minutes past the hour, and I'm Mercy Malik with your reality check. First up, file this one under Takes One to Know One. The only way this reporter would stoop to mention the Cruz home's divorce filing is when said filing motivates Rupert Murdoch to tweet about Scientology. Yahoo News reports that Murdoch, while weighing in on the impending celebrity marital dissolution via Twitter, further commented of Scientologists that there is, quote, something creepy, maybe even evil about these people, end quote. It's a bad day indeed when one is accused of being creepy and evil by Rupert Murdoch, who knows a thing or two about both of those two things.
If you smell it, right?
The media mogul later tweeted, quote, since Scientology tweet hundreds of attacks, still stick to my story, end quote. Well, you go, Rupert Murdoch, probably the only man on planet Earth with enough hubris to challenge the big S without flinching. As a side note, another tweeter asked Murdoch what he thought of the LDS, to which he replied, quote, Mormonism a mystery to me, but Mormons certainly not evil, end quote. Well, that's good to know. It's 32 minutes
It's official
past the
now.
hour. Right. He said it. And speaking of Mormons, Mitt Romney, you got some splaining to do. Earlier this year, Christian conservatives were horrified to discover that the presumptive Republican presidential nominee had apparently invested heavily in a medical waste disposal firm called Stericycle. What's the problem? Well, in addition to presumably collecting such items as amputated limbs suffered while fighting in illegal wars and the like, Stericycle also disposed of aborted fetuses. And the crowd goes wild.
Oh my God.
But never fear, Bain Capital, the firm started by Romney, saved the neck of its founder by claiming that the company itself had done the investing completely independent of Mitt, who had already left the firm at the time to run the Salt Lake City Winter Olympics. Very presidential. Right. Well, not so fast. Mother Jones magazine reports that a plethora of recently revealed documents show Romney was in fact still integrally involved in both Bain and the decision to fund Stericycle, which might give fundamentalists pause. And then there's that pesky part about Stericycle being heavily fined for knowingly exposing its workers to diseases, including tuberculosis. But I digress, because worker safety is not typically high on the list for those mainly concerned with zygotes. Stay tuned for Romney's inevitable spin on these latest revelations. It's 34 minutes past the hour. And finally, it's time for absolutely ridiculous news from legislatures in these here United States. The stars at night are big and bright in this week's Spotlight State. Yeehaw! That's right, Texas. Thank you, Daily Cause, for bringing our attention to the newly released Texas Republican Party platform, which has declared war on the national menace known as critical thinking skills. That's right. I'll just go ahead and read directly from the platform, and I quote, "We oppose the teaching of higher order thinking skills, critical thinking skills, and similar programs that have the purpose of challenging the students' fixed beliefs and undermining parental authority." End quote.
Wow.
God forbid. Please don't challenge fixed beliefs or encourage higher thinking. Keep that thinking low, low, low as can be, kids. And if you dare to think out of line, Texas Republicans have an answer for that, because their stated party platform in 2012 also encourages the use of corporal punishment in schools. That's right, a whooping. I could go on to the parts where they encourage the refutation of evolution, climate change, and the effects of pollution on the environment, but after beating kids for thinking, let's just wrap it up. Texas State GOP, you are most certainly our losers of the week. for Go Harrison on KPFK 90.7 Los Angeles, 98.7 Santa Barbara, 93.7 San Diego, and 99.5 Ridgecrest China Lake. I'm Mercy Malik. You can be my friend on Facebook and send me news tips for your reality check.
And honey, I'm just going to pause for a second. This just came in.
That's what I told you when I first walked in.
Well, I know. I didn't actually hear it. I thought we were talking about something else.
No, I'm saying he finally came out. Aren't you excited?
Anderson Cooper has come out. Well, I hope that we were helpful in pushing that in the last 2.5 months. But he just came out officially. The Time Warner Corporation now wrapping their many tentacles around their new gay superstar leading the news, which to me is just a matter of integrity. It's very hard to explain what's going on in the world when you don't reveal. It's like you know.
I've never agreed with you on this one. So
I do. Here's why.
Yeah,
Here's why. Let's say I were a communist. It's subjunctive voice. I'm not saying I am. Let's say I were a communist and I were doing stories about communism. It's important for me to reveal that I happen to be a communist. Or if I'm doing constant stories for the Wall Street Journal on Bain Capital, but I'm a majority shareholder in Bain Capital. Likewise, when you are the deliverer of critical information for people and you've got a big friggin' elephant in the middle of the room that you're not acknowledging but doing all these gay stories, you have to reveal that you may have skin in the game or foreskin in the game, which could be the case too.
Okay, so if you're a swinger and you're doing a story on swingers, you have to reveal that you're a swinger.
You should.
You and I will absolutely disagree till the end of time.
Because I'm not a swinger.
I don't think it's any of my business what anyone's personal anything is. They should be practicing journalism.
Well,
but that's just me.
They should, and you have to reveal your Remember, sex and finance, it's not like sex is a special private area. It's wherever your skin is. Where you have a vested interest in something and you're covering it, you need to reveal that connection. But then, that's just me.
Yeah, we disagree.
We do.
That's not what I was taught in the journalism school.
And I was taught that.
So,
but then that's
Stanford will battle.
Well, I know. It's all good. It's all good. And now that Anderson Cooper has found the middle road, or no longer is in the middle road, we'll give him the...
Oh, my God.
That he's now a brother. Or, as we like to say, TW, or that way. All right, back to the show.
Harrison on the edge, like NPR on acid.
And it is 38 minutes past the hour. Harrison with you, your new best friend, horrifying and melting down poor Tony Denison, who came in here as a...
Did you know what kind of show you were coming on, Tony?
As a fine citizen and upstanding actor, not tethered to any political thing at all, not concerned with any of this fizzy, frolicky side crap, and here he had to watch all of that. But you've survived it well, sir, and you've held up. He's hanging in.
I mean, I know you can see it on the video. I'm by my fingertips on this table that has no grooves whatsoever, so it's not real wood.
Well, we're trying to keep the criminal vibe in here nice and high.
Yes.
And keep the edge. And
well, I was going to say before, what brought to mind, when I was mentioning Mike Burcham.
Yeah.
One of his very first cases was the O.J. case.
Yeah.
I mean, this when he was just like basically, a couple of months above being a rookie detective. And he said, when he went to that crime scene, it was like, he thought, geez, my God. And the fact that they, O.J. was a suspect, and as far as they were concerned, he was guilty. I mean, all the evidence led to him, and then he got found, not guilty. Everybody can draw their own conclusion. But were he guilty, it's possible that a man can go that crazy. Or a woman. It depends.
I'm supposing, Tony Denison, that stress is a lot to do with it. Like, one of the things that we don't talk about so much in this culture is why we have extraordinary rates of alcoholism and drug abuse and all the rest of it. And I think things are so difficult for people, but we don't ever acknowledge what's really going on, and so people self-medicate, and they dose. And somebody like O.J., whose career probably felt like it was on the wane, unless, of course, they were running... what was that wonderful Leslie Nielsen movie he was in?
Police Squad.
Yeah, if he got a couple of those running for a couple of tips here and there, but other than that, it's on the wane.
Well, I mean, they cops can only do what they can do.
Yeah.
I mean, they come in, they're trained, forensically to do, field forensics, and they say, okay, everything here seems to lead towards this particular outcome. And whether they believe him to be guilty or not is not important. It's just, they just try to go, like that old, was it Dragnet? Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts.
Yeah.
And so as far as just the facts are concerned, they draw their conclusions to say, okay, you're under arrest. And then they take that person in. And then it's up to, our legal system, the courts and whatever, to like basically safeguard, our rights. But if the evidence is too surmounting, then, then you're sorry, you go to jail.
We're talking to Tony Denison. You know him as the 5-time nominated and SAG-nominated Prism Award-winning actor, also star of the #1 drama on TNT, The Closer, as Detective Andy Flynn, along with Kira Sedgwick. And he's now going to be starring in a new spin-off series coming up in about a month called Major Crimes. It's going to be premiering August 13th on TNT. And the new show is going to pick up where The Closer left off, with Mary McDonnell as the lead female, delving into the justice system. And I love her.
She's wonderful.
Oh, my God. I mean, I worshipped Battlestar Galactica because of her. It's like, if I could have lunch with somebody, how do you do that?
Yeah, she's great. I mean, I say to people, if Mary McDonnell is not real, not genuine in terms of how nice she is, then there's no hope for mankind. Because she's really such a sweetheart. And, it's a joy to work with her. And, the thing I wanted to say, that why Major Crimes, in a sense, is a spinning on kind of show. James Duff said that one of the things he couldn't really deal with that much on The Closer was that even after Kira's character would get a confession or get a person, okay, I did it, they never really get a chance to talk about what happened after they say, I did it. Because the cities and the states are broke. I mean, they have no money. And so when it comes to criminal cases, they're looking to make a plea bargain as much as they can.
Right.
And so that's what we're mostly focused with now. We sort of solve our crimes as best we can, but the key thing is to get a confession in such a way so that there's very little room for plea bargain beyond what we hope to get. So, like, if you can get the person in jail for 10 years, great. Because if you go to trial, there's a possibility they could walk.
Yeah.
And especially if you think they just don't have the money to go to trial. It's just very costly. So that's what's happening in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, you name it. Even the smaller municipalities. It's tough. There's money is not there.
Unless we want it.
Well, unless
the Pentagon has quite an appetite and is never underfed, it seems.
There's a disproportionate amount of money, going to the national safety of the military versus the local safety of the citizens of Los Angeles, or even
the people the military is supposed to defend.
Right, exactly.
And while you're at it, send the National Guard overseas. That makes a lot of sense.
We're going to continue talking.
We don't need their help.
Not a bit.
We're going to continue talking to Tony Denison in just a moment. We're going to do Activism a Go-Go, and then we're going to hear sports from Garrett Ritt. Want to remind you that coming up in August, right around the time that Tony's new show called Major Crimes premieres, I'm going to be emceeing an event, a 3-day event on chemtrails and genetically modified organisms. It's going to be at the Wilshire Ebell Theater, and it's a 3-day event. We're bringing in, for the first time, it is a first-time ever global confab. We're going to be bringing in people from all over the world. We're going to be video streaming this thing for you, because you've asked and asked and asked that we provide this information, and I can't say to what degree everything is exactly true, but what can be done for you is to present the science and let you walk away better informed. You certainly know plenty about GMOs. You certainly know what's going to be on the ballot here in November in California, which means that you would be allowed to actually have labeling that says that your corn is made out of botulism toxoid, and that somehow those little pink cells inside of your body, when sprayed with Raid, might wither. And you have a right to know that. So it's all that and more. You can go to my website, goharrison.com, goharrison.com, to learn a whole lot more and get involved. And again, that's that's a gift for you. We'll also be doing a show on both of those topics beforehand, just to bring you up to speed. We're talking to Tony Denison. You know him as the 5-time SAG-nominated and Prism Award-winning actor, star of the #1 drama on TNT, The Closer. We wanted to bring in a smart guy with a great sense of humor and a real sense of balance and fair play. It's one thing where people speculate endlessly, as I do, as just a regular citizen, about why people commit crimes. It's another to have somebody who actually lives in the middle of it from more of a science or an anthropological standpoint. And that's what he does and has for so many decades, even being named by Time magazine as the villain of the year, because he recreates that kind of thinking, so much so that mafiosos look at him and go, hey, how about some coaching here? How about a private lesson? So we're going to continue sports in just a minute, but now it's time for Activism A Go-Go.
Excite your liberal might. Speak loudly and carry a big stick. It's time for Activism A Go-Go.
Oh, yeah!
If this were a dictatorship, it'd be a heck of a lot easier.
1, 2, 3, Activism A Go-Go.
And happy July 4th week, a fun time when people go to the beach, the barbecue, and celebrate our country. That is, except for people upset about the health care decision. Conservatives are calling Obamacare socialized medicine, and many are threatening to move to Canada, which, by the way, does have socialized medicine.
Yes.
But by the same logic, if comprehensive immigration reform passes, we can look forward to their move to Mexico. Well, Republicans are stating that passing Obamacare means Congress can next force us to eat broccoli, to which Obama stated, quote, "You should only have to buy the broccoli. Whether or not you eat it is up to you."
That's a joke.
Yes, that was a joke.
Just to clarify, that's a joke.
Just to clarify, that was a joke. Aaron Sorkin is coming under fire for his show Newsroom, and I'm still enjoying a bit of post-tumescence after watching it. It is my new favorite show. He's coming under fire where he reminds Americans we are not number one. Sorkin has also been seen at Weight Watchers meetings yelling, "Hey ladies, you're fat." At visiting university commencement screaming, "Hey graduates, you're broke." All kidding aside,
jokes.
Since all jokes, all horrible jokes.
Oh my God.
That's right. All kidding aside, since 1999, average student loan debt has increased by a shameful 11, or did I say 11? I meant 511%. If you want to help broke college graduates get out from under debt, you can support the Student Loan Forgiveness Act of 2012. It's H.R. 4170. The bill marks the culmination of a huge movement for student debt forgiveness. Under the bill, borrowers would not have to make monthly payments greater than 10% of their discretionary income and could have debt forgiven after 5 years of participation in the Federal Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. You can sign a petition in support of the bill by visiting moveon.org. MoveOn.org. And Anderson Cooper announced to the world today that he's gay. He also wants you to know that he hates squash and occasionally eats peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Which is, I think, just as applicable, but that's just me. We continue to battle right here on The Harrison Show. I don't care about any of those things any more or less than any others.
Unfortunately, I have to take her side. Am I on?
Yeah, you're on. You're on.
Because I used to be a newspaper editor. And, and I believe in just the journalistic track.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really care what you do for a living. It doesn't, what you do after your living and what you're doing when you're home. And the privacy of your own home, that's your business.
Right.
But once you go from your journal, if you're to giving the news and then you put an editorialization on it, then
which he does.
I'm sorry, buddy. Then you got to fess up.
Well, which he does. Yeah, and therefore he does need to fess up.
Well, he's not really a journalist in the truest sense of the word.
He's keeping them honest. By God, it said last week he was keeping Syria honest, and I'm thankful the Middle East is rescued.
But it's not journalism in that he's just giving you the straight news. Pardon the pun. I mean, he's just giving you a skewed version of the news, his take on it, which is what these opinion shows are about.
Well, then CNN should say that.
Well, I know, yeah, and he should then say fess up, which he's finally done.
So he gets a gold star in his fanny.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'd be glad to put it on there.
It's tough to go out there and suffer, quote unquote, the slings and arrows, and because people will want to bullyism, which is a
Yeah.
ongoing event constantly. There's all kinds of organizations now trying to prevent it. I mean, even though he's an adult, he's still going to get some bullying from other adults.
I get it.
You do?
I get it, but I invite it. No, I'm kidding. I've been out for a bunch of years. Really, nobody cares. That's because I don't care. If I cared, they'd care. That's for sure.
Yeah, well.
Speaking of which,
Yes.
caring and Outfest and all of that kind of stuff, mark your calendars for Outfest, celebrating their 30th anniversary this year with 5 nights of films for its Under the Stars at the Ford program. And it's showcasing lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender filmmaking in the industry. And it's July 1st through the 22nd at 8:30 p.m. at the Ford Theater located at 2580 Cahuenga Boulevard East, Los Angeles 90068. Next week, we will be doing a special Outfest feature talking to some of the better filmmakers. Well, they're all better filmmakers, but a hand-picked bunch that we think will have general interest for most people. Activism A Go-Go, written by Susie Shannon. You see this progressive activist all over town fighting the good fight, all on 45 minutes of sleep a night. For more information on who, where, and what I'd like to eat with Anderson Cooper, you could call me on, or you could check out us on Facebook at
Harrison
GoHarrison.com.
directly.
Activism A Go-Go.
Harrison is activism, whatever.
You're listening to Harrison. You're listening to Shatner. Now, wait a minute, Harrison. That's enough now.
Locking in. Coming up, more Harrison. 310-737-DOUG. Your free thinking, non-conforming home of free speech radio. This is Harrison. GoHarrison.com.
And it is 52 minutes past the hour. Harrison with you, your new best friend. Welcome you are listening and watching Go Harrison. You can see live video streaming right now on GoHarrison.com, GoHarrison.com, where we are featuring, we're talking backwards.
That's right.
Just for you to show that it can be done if you work hard enough to practice. It's time for a little sports. Even though that was a wonderful segue there, but I like wonderful segues, especially when they're done with Garrett Ritt.
Harrison hits the locker room.
Hey, what are you looking at?
Now for your seriously hard-hitting news of the day. Wimbledon, of course, is going on right now. It's about halfway complete. But the limited roles of Rafael Nadal and Maria Sharapova, the top seeds, are not the only ones who are Rafael Nadal and Maria Sharapova.
Thank you.
Nice.
No question. They're not the only ones whose tournaments could likely be over. Another important member of the All England Club who may be missing is a crucial piece named Rufus. You may know Rufus as an American Harris Hawk, who the powers to be at the Wimbledon have hired to scare away the pigeons that routinely cause havoc during the 2 weeks of the sport's biggest event. They've been doing so since 1999. So the pigeons basically can't crap all over the stadium. And they're everywhere, and they have now taken, instead of killing these birds, they have taken to have a hawk just to fly around and scare away these pigeons.
You know, pigeons is such a terrible name because they're really rock doves.
Rock doves.
Really? That's what they are. They're called rock doves, and they get this terrible name called pigeon.
You know what? Ian Fleming called them flying rats in Dr. No.
Yeah.
But they sound like doves. They sound
Yeah,
the
they
same.
are. They're called rock doves.
I just learned something.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Well, apparently he didn't just take his own way out and just try to fly away. Foul play was apparently suspected.
Yes.
I know, I'm sorry. This is terrible. But reportedly, Rufus was taken from the unattended van he was being housed in prior to work one day over the weekend. And what was the telltale sign of the bird napping?
What was it?
According to officials, Rufus's Twitter account hadn't seen any action since Friday, and that's how they could tell that he had been bird napped. Yes, it's a developing story.
He's a TV person.
Beware. And this week's celebrity sports star is Ron Paul. You may not know him as a sports star, but the former presidential candidate was inducted, and get this, it's a real thing, into the Congressional Baseball Hall of Fame on Saturday. Apparently every year the Congress gets together and has a baseball game, Republicans against Democrats. Well, the honor was bestowed upon the 24-year Texas congressman during Saturday's baseball game at Nationals Park in D.C., where he wore a 1979 throwback Houston Astros jersey. He wore that because in 1979, he was the first congressman ever to hit a home run in the game, and that's why he was being so honored. He threw out the first celebrity pitch in the game on Saturday, and he is now a Hall of Famer. Who knew, right?
So you're saying that members of Congress play baseball with each other?
Yes.
In public?
Every year.
So Larry Craig, that include the Senate too?
No, just Congress.
Well, that is, isn't it both? Or is this the House?
It was just the House. It's Republicans against Democrats in the House. They play once a year.
Why isn't this on C-SPAN?
You'd think, right? It's amazing.
It might be.
It just happened this weekend.
It might be.
Who knows?
C-SPAN
Does anyone want to watch it?
3 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, I'd actually watch that.
Yeah.
So, Hall of Fame athlete. Anyhow, this has been The Locker Room. I'm Garrett Ritt. You can follow me at Twitter at GMadness1. Back to Harrison.
The Locker Room.
Hey, what are you looking at?
GoHarrison.com.
And it is 57 minutes past the hour.
Ooh.
We're out.
Oh,
No, we're not.
Do we have
yes,
time
we are.
for one more question for
we
Tony?
We have time for one more question
this
with
is
our wonderful Tony
from a listener.
Denison.
I thought this was a great question. So, Lieutenants Flynn and Provenza are kind of the comedic duo often on the show,
Right.
and soon to be on Major Crimes as well. And we were talking earlier about the dark humor that is often pervasive in law enforcement. Have you ever had to say anything or do any sort of humorous material on the show that you felt uncomfortable with or that you felt crossed the line?
No, not ever. We've ad-libbed and improvised some stuff, and they've said, well, I think we got to pull that
Too
back
much.
a little bit.
So the opposite, basically.
But no, I mean, everything that, look,
20 seconds.
GW and I, the really wonderful thing about it is that we both take turns being Abbott and Costello in a sense, you know, which is rare. You know, I'm the straight man to his Costello and vice versa.
Well, you're one of two straight men in the room, and I'm Harrison, and I just want to thank you so much, Tony Denison, for joining us. August the 13th is your new show called Major Crimes on TNT. You can check us out, GoHarrison.com. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you later.
It's radio with release. You know, kind of like a massage. Harrison on the edge.
And you know, sometimes you're blessed as an actor.
Yeah.
You know, you get the opportunity to work with a writer, you know, producer, who is able to make, you know, put these notes together, so to speak, and come up with something fresh and different on the same old themes.
Yeah.
And James Duff, who is the executive producer of The Closer and now Major Crimes, who also happens to be a really close friend, he's done it again with Major Crimes. This really unique storytelling. You know, you start with a really good script, and then you put together your baseball team, so to speak. I mean, I once heard it said that if you took Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, put all of them on a field somewhere,
you'd be rich.
And didn't teach them the rules of the game.
Yeah.
Chaos would ensue as they were trying to do whatever it is. As soon as you give them the guidelines,
yeah,
you know, the foul lines and the point of the game, suddenly they play brilliantly. So I'd like to think this, you know, conflict between good and evil, and you know, I'm sure the early Greek plays, and you know, all we are is basically a continuation of all of those.
I'm starting to laugh now because you thought I was going to ask you if you'd had a life of crime, and I actually like that question.
Yes. Well, well, as we go on, I'll talk to you a little bit about my shady past.
You can answer in the hypothetical too.
Okay.
For Mercy's sake, because her boyfriend is over there, very protective. See, he's been to the gym, you can tell.
Never, never.
But I forgot what I was saying anyway.
The Greeks.
Oh, yeah. And Shakespeare, you mentioned Billy Shakespeare, one of my favorites.
Dead, you know.
Yes, I heard.
See what happens?
I know. I set shivers for him the other day. I just found out. No, but all of our play, everything that we do, it's just a continuation, you know, good versus evil, boy meets girl, and it's just all the different slants and variations based on, and you know, it's like music. It's like, you know, this limited number of notes and how you put them together, definition, but it's really not a spin-off per se because the song remains the same, it's just a different name.
It's a continuation.
It's a continuation, yes.
Right.
It's a, what were they, continuation off or continuation on?
Or something like that.
A spinning on.
A spinning on. It's a spinning on. Thank you. That's very good. It's a spinning on.
And let's examine for a second here, as an actor, Tony Denison, and we'll open up the phones in a minute and let people say hi to you. As an actor, you really do have to understand how these crimes work and what the criminal mind does, because it's not like I can just, here, act it out. And like Billy Shakespeare, you had to actually do poetry to write Shakespeare. So I think you actually also have to really understand this to pull it off and make us believe it.
So are you trying to ask me a question that whether or not I had a life of crime before I
actually, I hadn't thought of that, but let's, no. But as an actor, I mean, you actually have to understand crime, I would think, right? Isn't that part of the discipline?
Well, I think, you know, ultimately, you know, all drama is...
Occupy LA has, for you in the state of California, gotten the House to pass the Homeowners Bill of Rights, which means the other 50 states are soon to pay attention. And I'm sure we'll all be in contempt of something for that, because we certainly have contempt for the banks, and it's now been proved. So congratulations on all of you who have worked hard for that. Let me not pause for even another second and introduce a man who you know his... pulchritudinous visage. When you turn on the TV and watch TNT, you see a semi-naked Kira Sedgwick, and then you see a hot guy standing there, and he's blushing and squirming hideously. I'm talking about the 5-time SAG-nominated and Prism Award-winning actor Tony Denison, the star of the #1 drama on TNT, The Closer, as Detective Andy Flynn, along with Kira Sedgwick, whom I mentioned, soon to be starring in a new spin-off series called Major Crimes. So TNT is going to be running the end of the Closer series just in the next couple of weeks. And then August the 13th, Tony, you leap in front of the camera, reprising or reprising, depending which side of...
the Mississippi.
The Mississippi, or I don't know,
taking a guess.
or affected dialect you come from, but you'll be doing that role once again and solving the most hideous crimes Earth has ever known. Welcome.
To be here. You know, on that excuse me, that August 13th start date, I'd like to note that I think this is the first time this has happened. Immediately following the last episode of The Closer. So it'll be, you know, the end, station break, and then boom, when the lights come back up again, it'll be the first episode of Major Crimes. And then the following week, Major Crimes will take over the Closer time slot.
You're leading into yourself.
Yes, we're leading, actually that's true.
That's
we're
clever.
leading into ourselves.
Great.
That's clever.
But it's not, it's a spin-off, for lack of a better